However, the judge agreed with the prosecution that the third accused person, Ahmed Talal Roda, in his confessional statement and oral evidence before the court, had knowledge of the said weapons, having admitted to being charged with the responsibility to take care of the weapons. Justice Ademola therefore handed him the maximum sentence of life imprisonment. While the third accused person was led back to the Kuje prison, the first and second accused person could not hide their joy of being acquitted by the court.
Anybody who invests in a place in billions of naira will not be interested in destroying it. And we believe in Nigeria, we continue to believe in Nigeria, and we thank God and we thank the Nigerian people for all the support they have rendered to us throughout our lives in Nigeria.
Following the judgment, Justice Ademola ordered that the first and second accused persons be released and all their belongings returned to them immediately. He also ordered that their businesses, Amigo Supermarket and Wonderland Amusement Park, be unsealed immediately. He however ordered that the house at number 3 Gaya Road, Kano, where the said arms and ammunition were found, should be forfeited to the federal government. You're still watching Diplomatic Channel, and when we return after the break, the crisis in Egypt continues. Please stay with us.
Fun, inspiration and knowledge. That's what you get from readers, writers, publishers, and the entire book world. Get some interesting reviews, events, interviews, and latest updates from the book world. The channel's book club, inspiring you one page at a time.
Welcome back. Mass protests and several arrests were the order of the day last week in Egypt when thousands took to the streets in defiance of a new law restricting demonstrations. Thousands of Mohamed Morsi supporters marched through the coastal city of Alexandria to protest against harsh prison terms handed out to female protesters on Wednesday, November the 27th. An Alexandria court sentenced 14 women to 11 years and 1 month in prison for obstructing traffic during a protest by supporters of ousted Islamist President Mohamed Morsi that took place in late October. 7 other women, all under the age of 18, are set to serve their sentences in juvenile detention. The court did not set the amount of time they will serve in the facility. The harsh sentences have sparked outrage among some Egyptians and coincide with a crackdown on protests by the military-backed interim government, which recently passed a restrictive protest law. The charges against the women relate to an October protest in Alexandria, where the women all marched on the street under a movement they called 7 a.m. movement, which called for protests to take to the streets at 7 in the morning before schools opened. The number of protests and the scale of political violence have grown since July, when the army removed elected Islamist President Mohamed Morsi following mass protests against his rule. Protesters also clashed with police in Cairo and Giza, a day after one university student was killed in clashes with police at Cairo University. Still in Africa, last week, President Joseph Kabila toured the eastern areas of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which were held by rebels until earlier this month. He spent a week driving from Kisangani in a 70-car convoy. He later ended his 930 kilometers journey in Rutshuru, which was held by the M23 rebels for more than a year. Take a look. It's a new dawn in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where President Joseph Kabila vowed to residents of Rutshuru town, a former stronghold of ousted M23 rebels, that the war is over. Mr. Kabila made the comments on Friday, November the 29th, after receiving a warm welcome by locals in what was his first visit to the area since rebels stormed into the provincial capital, Goma.
I stand here today to tell you that the war that these rebels waged against this town of Rutshuru was the last, and it is over. But this does not mean that we should just rest easy. We should prepare now because Congo has a lot of enemies who want to harm us. I appeal for vigilance from you.
The rebel occupation of the city of 1 million people shocked Western powers into taking a more active role in Congo, consequently turning the tide of the conflict. DR Congo ranks bottom of the United Nations Human Development Index. Millions of people have died in the East from violence, disease and hunger since the 1990s, as foreign-backed insurgent groups have waged a series of rebellions, often for control of the region's rich deposits of gold, diamonds and tin. President Kabila, who had not visited the restive North Kivu province for over 2 years, reiterated the sovereignty of his nation and warned that his government would not tolerate hostilities from neighboring countries. Both Rwanda and Uganda have repeatedly denied accusations by DR Congo and the United Nations Monitoring Group that they provided military backing to the M23 rebels. We'll now cross over to the Middle East, where after several months of delay, the United Nations has announced the date for the second Geneva Conference on Syria. This comes as the Syrian civil war continues unabated.
Good morning.
After announcing that the second Geneva Conference on Syria will be held on January the 22nd next year, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said all parties should make it a success. At a press conference held at the UN headquarters in New York, Mr. Ban said the Geneva Conference is a vehicle for peaceful transition that fulfills the legitimate aspirations of all the Syrian people for freedom and dignity, which guarantees safety and protection to all communities in Syria.
All parties can and must begin now to take steps to help the Geneva Conference succeed, including toward the cessation of violence, humanitarian access, release of detainees, and return of Syrian refugees and internally displaced people to their homes.
But though the Syrian authorities say they will attend the talks in January, the country's prime minister said the government will not succumb to Western demands for President Bashar al-Assad to step aside.
The Syrian government is going to Geneva too without any preconditions. But every day we hear statements from the so-called Syrian opposition coalition and those who stand behind it. You know who represents them. They are individuals. They are not groups. Each one has his own reference.
Nevertheless, the Syrian National Coalition opposition group, which has also announced that it will attend the Geneva II talks in January, is insisting that President Bashar al-Assad can play no future role in Syria. Meanwhile, the war continues in Damascus, with the United Nations urging the international community to ensure that this does not turn out to be a lost generation of Syrian children. A UN report released last Friday found that more than 70,000 Syrian refugee families do not have a father, and almost 4,000 children are unaccompanied by or separated from both parents. That's it on today's edition of Diplomatic Channel. Please send your feedback to any of the social platforms showing on your screen. Thanks for watching. I'm Temitope Fagbemi.